Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the little delay we had, but thank you all for being here for another Workforce Wednesday with the Kentucky Chamber Workforce Center's Bus to Business program. My name is Harper Smith, and I help direct this program. Before I introduce our speaker today, excuse me, I would like to thank our sponsors, Kentucky, SHRM, and AT&T, for their investment in helping to bring classrooms to careers. And I would also like to thank the entire team at ULIMI for their support through this virtual event platform. Like always, our resources are housed on our website, kychamber.com/bus2business. This session is being recorded and will be available for rewatch on our YouTube and Facebook channels. So whether you're one of the over 230 students tuning in live with us on March 31st or watching at a later date, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you all learned something new today. Today, we're having a really special session, and I'm really excited about it. We'll be hearing from Chef Sara Bradley. Sara is the chef and proprietor of Freight House. She first cut her chops at Johnson & Wales before mastering her skills under the tutelage of Michelin star chefs John Fraser, as well as David Posey and Paul Cahan. After seeing an opportunity in her native Paducah, Kentucky, she returned to her roots with bold ambitions. At Freight House, she aims to bring the freshest local flavors to her dishes by sourcing a majority of her ingredients from farmers within a day's drive, while also working within the community to encourage agricultural sustainability through education and demonstration. Most recently, Chef Sara received runner-up honors on season 16 of Top Chef, which was largely filmed in Kentucky. I actually went to one of the tapings. It was super fun. Being the only chef testant from her native state, she battled her way through the competition, ultimately taking the second place spot in the finale, which is filmed in Macau, China. We will be monitoring the chat for any questions that you have for Sara, and our Southwest Talent Pipeline Project Manager, Brittany Dawson, will be directing those at the end of the session. So without further ado, I will welcome Chef Sara.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. I'll kind of kick it over to you with whatever you can, and we'll be watching the chat for any questions. So thanks so much.
Perfect. I just want to say hello to everybody, and I'm so excited to be on here with you guys. When Harper called me to see if I wanted to do this program, I was really excited about it. I'm going to give you guys a few more details here in a little bit, but I just think that what you're doing and the time that you're devoting to your future is really important. I wish that I had done a little bit more. So I'm from Paducah. I graduated from Heath High School, which is not here anymore. If you're from Western Kentucky, it's all McCracken County High School now. I then went on to the University of Kentucky, and I graduated with a degree in psychology, and I focused on statistics. So I really thought that I wanted to do research. So the job that I have now is completely different than the job that I had when I first graduated from college. I wanted to work in the research field, work in laboratories, pursue postdoctorate degrees. Didn't really work out that well. So I started working at a psychiatric hospital and thought maybe I'd be a social worker. And that lasted for about 2 months. And then I told my parents that I wanted to go to culinary school. I have been working in the kitchen for about 20 years. And 20 years ago, the restaurant industry, and I think being a chef, was looked at quite differently. It was kind of before the day of Food Network and all of these really cool shows. So people didn't have a lot of insight into what happened behind the scenes. So when I told my folks that I want to go to culinary school, they were a little surprised, but they totally supported me. And I went to culinary school out in Charlotte, North Carolina, went to Johnson & Wales, and I graduated with an associate's in culinary arts and sciences. And then that's where the fun part started. So if you are thinking about working in the culinary field, or if you're thinking about, I don't even think this applies to working in the culinary field. Most of what I have learned in my career has been working with other chefs, with other cooks. I'm not trying to lead you away from going to college. I think education is such a huge and important part of everything, but I really learned a lot working in my industry. And so I think that that's an expectation that everyone should have, that once you decide what you want to do and you start working in that industry, you're really going to be able to apply everything you learned in school. So sometimes it doesn't always seem like you're going to figure it out, or like it seems like something you're really going to need. But once you start to be able to apply those skills in your job, you can really flourish. So I worked in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was then in Birmingham. I picked up when I was about 25 years old and moved to New York City. And I didn't have a job or a place to live. I just, wanted to go to New York City and be a chef. And I did that. And I was lucky that it worked out really well. I had a really great job in New York, then in Chicago. And then when I was about 30, I guess 33, 34, I moved home to Paducah and I decided to open a restaurant. So actually, let me back that up. I decided I wanted to open a restaurant and then I moved home to Paducah. I did all of the things that I was supposed to. When you want to start a business, so if you're going to want to be an entrepreneur, there's a lot of little things you can get on the internet and you can type in how to start a business. And there are lots of pages that will tell you what to do. You guys, those guys aren't lying. I wrote a business plan. I wrote a mock schedule. I wrote fake menus and decided how and what pieces of equipment I would need whenever I opened this business. I spent about a year planning the freight house before we even found the building. So once we found the building, we knew exactly what we wanted to do. I think that those parts of being an entrepreneur are so important. I also was able to establish those because I had worked for other people in my field. I had helped open restaurants for other people. I had done a lot of that stuff. I didn't just start out, at ground zero and have no idea what was going on. I had a lot of experiences help pushing me along the way. I would love to, that's just kind of my background story, gives you a very good idea of, what I've gone through, how I've gotten here. I wanted to give you guys a little tour of my kitchen. So it's not that often that you get to walk around and see behind a kitchen. So I wanted to, let's see if we can spin this around for you. Well, I guess we'll just have to go like this. Okay, so has anybody, if you've been to the Freight House before, I want you to holler in the chat and let me know that you've been here. This is kind of a cool thing. At least this is something for me that I never got to do. So we're walking into the Freight House right now. We walk straight in. There's a hostess stand. So when I wrote the schedule, I needed to plan for a hostess, but I needed to plan for 2 hostess on a Friday night. So that's one job I thought about. You walk in and you see the whole dining room. So everything is all set up. It's broken down for nighttime right now. All the chairs are flipped. There's a lot of really cool terminology that you learn working in a kitchen. So when you come around this way, you come to the part of the kitchen that I love the best, or the restaurant, the kitchen. So this whole kitchen was designed by my mother and father and I, with a 3-sided ruler and a lot of long nights. So you come in, so over here we have the walk-in. So they call it a walk-in. I'm going to let you guys guess why, but obviously because you can walk inside it. The lights were off. We just have a little bitty freezer here at Freight House. So we try to source as much as we can locally. And we do that because we want to try to support local agriculture, local producers. We really want to be a part of the community. That's part of our ethos. So that's what we do. Over here, you've got what they call the dish pit. So this is where all the dirty work gets done, all the dishes, all the cleaning, bringing it on around. We have our little bitty office. You always imagine that everybody has this big, beautiful office. Ours is tiny and it's shoved full of stuff. Now we're still walking around the kitchen. We have our order board. So this is an intricate part of a restaurant. You run out of something, you have to write it down. Our dry storage, so this is everything that does not need to be refrigerated. So lots and lots of stuff. all the way around. Then you have over here what we call the server station. So the server station is where the cooks get all of that space and the servers get nothing. So again, we just made a big circle around that table right there. So that's where all the prep work happens. This is the area that all the magic happens, I like to say. So this is what you call the line. So the line in the restaurant is the cook line where all the cooks are working. So on this line right here, there are 5 people that work. So you are elbow to elbow. You have your about 3 feet of space and everybody else has theirs. That's normally what you would allot for someone, is about a 3x4 square for them to work in. All of our equipment down the line comes all the way down. Ovens, there are 4 ovens. So I just wanted to give you guys a little peek what's going on behind there. Then you've got this area right here. So now we're standing back out in the dining room and we're looking back towards the kitchen. This is called the pass. So for the pass, it's where all of the food comes up and it gets passed out to the runner or the expediter or the chef. And, so there's lots of little terminology. In culinary school, I didn't really learn all of those words. I knew some about them because I had worked in kitchens before, but I didn't understand all of that. But I started to learn all of that stuff once I started in my field. This is the area for your parents over here. This is the bar. But, that is a big part of the restaurant, is the bar. We are a bourbon bar. So once you're 21, you're welcome to come and visit and see us. But, you can come and eat dinner too, but until you're 21, you can't have any drinks. So we have that. Harper, are there any questions before I kind of move into the next little thing, or?
I don't see any questions yet. Actually, wait, one just came through. What are some of the dishes that you have?
So our menu, can you guys see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Yeah. So our menu is really cool. And I'm going to grab a copy of it. We've changed it a lot due to the pandemic. So we used to have all paper menus. Now we have like QR code menus. So we try to do like all contactless and stuff like that. Some of the menu items. So I think these are, so what we tried to do at this restaurant is we try to, like I said, we try to be locally sourced. The other thing we try to do is we try to be locally sourced. The other thing we try to do is do food that people know and feel comfortable with, but we kind of like to add a little twist to it. So we have one of our most popular dishes is shrimp and grits. We buy all of our grits from a local Kentucky grain mill. We have our shrimp. Someone drives it up from New Orleans or from the Gulf Coast once every week, fresh for us, and we serve it with a New Orleans barbecue sauce and smoked ham hocks. We also have this dish that's called a braised pork shoulder. It's our second popular dish. So around Paducah, pork shoulder is king. That's what everybody uses for barbecue. When we opened the restaurant, we didn't have a way to barbecue, so we came up with a different way to serve pork shoulder. So now we serve a smoke brined pork shoulder with black-eyed peas, sweet greens, and bacon fat cornbread. We have a pastry chef in-house. So I think this is a kind of a cool thing to talk about. My restaurant is set up what they would call a brigade system. So there are 2 things that very first come to mind to me when I talk about a brigade. Number 1 is the armed forces, the army. I don't know, don't anybody laugh at me if I don't get this right, but you've got like the general, the sergeant, the lieutenant, the, officer, all the way down. So that's how a restaurant's set up. So I'm the chef. I am the chef and the proprietor. I'm the owner. Underneath me, we have the sous chef and the pastry chef. They're about equal. And then underneath that, we have cooks. But each cook has a different position. So there's a brigade system. So the reason that you have that is everything that's done in a restaurant, someone has to take credit for. And that's something that's going to happen anywhere you work. You're going to have to be able to take credit for what you do, what you make, what you produce. And so in a restaurant, it's a very obvious system of this person, this person, this person, this person. So when somebody down here messes up, they had all these other people before to catch it, before it actually went out to the person's plate. So we can hold people accountable. So when we talk about designing menu items, the higher that you get up on the brigade system, the more responsibility you have to come up with different ideas for menu items. We're always looking for things that are in season, and we're always working with farmers. So your responsibility as a cook is not just to cook the food if you work in a restaurant like mine. It's to come up with ideas, it's to order the food, it's to check the quality of the product. You have a lot of different responsibilities. The first one you would ever get to put on the menu if you worked here would be pork rinds. So we have fresh pork rinds, and every cook that starts, their first task is to come up with a new pork rind dish. Right now it's pork rinds, and we drizzle them with spicy honey, and then we have like a mustard aioli. So it's like a honey mustard pork rind. Some people have never had fresh pork rinds. They're super delicious. They're better than what you get out of the bag at the gas station. I think, I think that it's kind of stepping away from the kitchen, you guys, and just talking a little bit about what you should think of for the future. Remember, I started my conversation with saying what I thought I wanted to do. And I went to college for 4 years and I graduated, and that's what I thought I wanted to do. Before that, I had a lot of ideas about what I wanted to do. At one point, I thought I wanted to be an architect. And so I went to this architect weekend at the University of Kentucky, and I realized I did not want to be an architect. At one point, I thought maybe I wanted to be a nurse. I went and hung out with some nurses at the hospital for a couple of weeks. Didn't want to do that at all. I thought maybe I wanted to be an attorney. So I hung out with an attorney for a week. Hated it. So I think that right now is a really good time if you have an idea that you want to do something before you devote 4 years of your life or 2 years of your life or 18 months or whatever whatever you're going to have to devote to learn that skill. I think it's a really good idea to go and hang out with somebody for a couple of days that does that and just see what you're getting into. The actual restaurant industry is nothing like what you see on Food Network or on Top Chef or something like that. I don't get to cook as much as I'd like to anymore. I do a lot of spreadsheets. I crunch a lot of numbers because I'm a business owner. I am a chef and a business owner. So those, making sure that things line up is really important, making sure that all the costs are good. That we're not spending too much money here, that we're not wasting product, that we're not having people work too many hours or not enough hours. So there's a lot of time spent doing that. And I didn't really realize that when I started culinary. I thought it was going to be all about cooking. I now love the business part of it, but I didn't know in the beginning that it was going to be about that. So that's one suggestion I'd give you. I know it's hard to do with COVID to get people to let you into their kitchen, but or let you into their business. But you could ask your people in high school, ask your guidance counselors and stuff like that, because we actually have a program with McCracken County where we have for different high school females, where we have one different female. They come and work with us for a whole year. And if they want to go to culinary school, we help them get into culinary school after that. So I can keep going, Harper, unless there's questions or you guys have some stuff you want to talk about.
You're good to keep going. We have our talent pipeline project manager, Brittany, has some questions for you, but you can, if you have more to cover, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring her up. Brittany, I'll kick it over to you.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Brittany.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a huge fan and love the Freight House. I travel to Paducah quite a bit and have been in there several times. So love to have your dishes. You've really answered a lot of the questions that I had. I love that you talked about the entrepreneurship side of the business. I had a similar experience in going to college and working in banking for 15 years, and now I work in workforce development. So I understand how sometimes you have grand plans in mind and your path changes, and that's okay. A couple questions I had though. Talk about some of your earliest mentors, and not just in the kitchen, but maybe people who influenced you along the way.
I think it's really interesting. Now, as a mother myself, I think back a lot about how much my parents influenced my work ethic. So my father and mother, my father used to work, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. My mother was a social worker. And I think that seeing my folks working all the time and trying to, you know, create a type of lifestyle for us, I really held on to that. And I look at it now and see that I'm probably going to be one of the biggest mentors for my children. With that being said, I don't do anything like what my parents do, so I can take what I want to from my parents and learn that, maybe I don't want to work 80 or 90 hours a week. How do I find a skill? How do I find a job where that works? But, my mother was a social worker. I do want to be around people all the time. And I do want to be offering advice and teaching people and helping people. And that's a lot of what being a chef is. A chef is about sharing your knowledge. I think so. Both my folks were big mentors. And then I had a couple of teachers in high school that just really helped push me to do secondary education. I think another really, this may sound like not what you would normally think a mentor was, but for me, I started playing soccer later on in life. So I wasn't one of the kids that started playing soccer at 5 or 6 years old. I didn't start until I was a teenager. And I learned so much from that team sport aspect, things that I've never taken away from me. And I think that I enjoyed being on a team so much. I've now put myself in a career where this kitchen is a team. We only operate if everyone is doing their part and if everyone is really trying hard. And at the end of the night, the win for us is having a good service. So I think that my friends were really big mentors to me too.
That's awesome. That's a great answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I know your path was a little bit different to enter the kitchen, but what are some of your first memories in the kitchen, maybe with your mom or other family members?
I always loved to cook. There was a lot of times growing up, and my parents say yeah, we always, it doesn't seem odd now that you are a chef because you always were in the kitchen. So there was a lot of times where other kids, all my cousins, they wanted to go outside and play, and I stayed inside and helped my grandmother make apple butter, or I stayed inside and helped my mom make pies. So I've always loved the kitchen. I am dyslexic, so I have a learning disability, and words are not my thing, but I'm really, really good at numbers. So letters, not so great. Numbers, got that down. So a job like this where, if you're making a recipe and you need to make it for 2.5 times the amount, or every single ingredient costs a certain amount, and then you have to add all those ingredients up, and you have to find out the food cost and the labor cost. So I put myself in a career that worked great for me. I don't have to do a lot of writing as a chef, but I have to do a lot with numbers. So I think that from an early on, I can remember myself reading recipes and being so excited because it was easy for me to do the math, and I didn't have to follow the directions so much. I could just kind of go from a whim and shoot from the hip. So some of my earliest memories were we're kind of halfway following recipes and cooking with my mother and my grandmother.
Yeah, that's awesome. And getting creative with them too, I'm sure. We do have a chat question. What are one of your favorite dishes?
My favorite dishes. So
tough question.
It is a tough question. I think that if okay, so hands down, my favorite ingredient is just cheese. I love cheese.
Who doesn't love cheese?
I saw somebody on like Instagram the other day say something like, if you could have one ingredient be calorie free for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I was like, cheese, obviously. I just think that it's such a cool product, and the fact that everyone starts with one thing, which is just milk, either cow's milk or sheep's milk or goat's milk, and then turns it into so many other things and so many different and interesting stuff, not just like cheddar or mozzarella, but really obscure kind of esoteric cheeses. Cheese is probably my favorite ingredient. My favorite food is probably fried chicken.
Oh, okay.
I
Nice.
love fried chicken, and I think that it's really there's a skill to making really good
Yes.
fried chicken. Our fried chicken at the Freight House takes about 3 days to make. I know it sounds
Oh, wow.
crazy, but we start by first brining the chicken in sweet tea. So tea has tannins in it, and the tannins are a tenderizer. So they help to break down the chicken and make it where it's not tough and it's very tender. And after we brine it in sweet tea, then we take it out and we soak it in buttermilk and hot sauce. And
Yeah.
buttermilk and hot sauce have acid in them, so those also are tenderizers. They also impart some really good flavor into the chicken. Then after day 2, when it spends a day in a buttermilk and hot sauce bath, day 3 is when you order it and we actually fry the chicken. And we have a very special recipe for the breader. We use a very specific type of oil. So we've really put a lot of effort into perfecting fried chicken. And it
That's
seems like such a
amazing.
simple thing, but you know,
I can't fry anything, so it is a skill. I appreciate. I like in that department. We've got another question asking about some of the side dishes you guys do at Freight House. I know typically outside of pandemic, you have like a rotating menu. Are you guys still doing that?
We do. So we changed. Let's see. So this, I'll just kind of hold this up so you guys can this is what our menu would look like. Is that all totally backwards to everybody? Probably.
I can't tell.
So over here is like our starters. So we have all kinds of starter items. And then right here at the top, we have salads. And then we have our classic items. And then this whole column over here are rotating. So everything on the menu, so I guess everything on the menu except for this item right here, those all change.
Okay.
So out of the menu with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. So 28 items on the menu, and only 4 of them always stay the same.
Oh, wow. So we never know what's going to be there when we
Yeah. So if you can come here with your folks or come down with your friends or something, you'll taste something, you'll get something, and you come back a week later and it may not be there. And some people don't like that. Some people like to be able to always go to the restaurant and always get the same thing.
Right.
But we don't do that. So we like to change it up and try some different stuff.
Well, I'm sure you have to because you're doing locally sourced, so it's kind of a seasonal menu, right?
Yep. It's very seasonal. Like right now we have a lot of we have like cauliflower, broccoli, lots of greens, because there are what they call overwintered greens. So greens that have slowly grown over the winter, and now that it's getting ready, it's starting to warm up, they're really getting excited and growing a lot. We have local fish, so we serve Asian carp here. We have one person that goes and catches it for us every day and brings it to us fresh. We have a lot of seafood items on the menu right now. I was raised Jewish, so we have some items that are very Passover oriented, but we also have a lot of items that are seafood heavy because of Lent. So, we try to be aware of what everyone is eating at home and then offer them a really exciting menu when they come here to the restaurant.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let me see what else we've got over here. Any advice that you would give students who are interested in culinary arts? Maybe if they're in early or middle school or high school, what are some classes they could look into, or how could they get a little bit of experience?
Yeah, so I think if you're interested in culinary arts right now, the best thing you can do is cook for your family. Like if you're too young to get a job, cooking for your family It's going to give you a lot more confidence when you get a little bit older. I see people get really frustrated when they're cooking, and you have to remember that the whole basis of cooking is to feed people food. We try to focus on the loving part, the idea of like food is more than just fuel for your body. It really is an experience. But there's a whole part where food is fuel for the body, and that's really kind of like healthy, clean eating. So there's so many different things. But I would say if you're too young to have a job or an externship, there's a couple outlets. Number one is your local 4-H or your extension office. They have programs there. I know that Paducah has a really great extension office, their culinary program. These guys go to nationals almost every year. So if you're somewhere where they have an extension office, you should definitely check that out. Those start, I think, at like 12 years old.
Okay.
So, I would definitely cook for your parents, and don't be afraid if it messes up. And then try new things. Don't just be, don't just do exactly what you think you know. Try a recipe. Find something you think looks really pretty and create that recipe. And don't just do it once. Do it again and again, because every time you do something, you'll get better and better at it.
Sure. What are some of the must-see things in Paducah if we come to visit? Besides the Freight House, obviously.
Yeah, well, Freight House is number one. House is number one. We have this really beautiful, so you can start all the way out almost by the mall. So if you haven't been to Paducah before, there's kind of two areas. There's like the mall area and then the downtown area. And there's this really cool thing called the Greenway Trail that connects the mall area. And you can ride your bike right next to the riverfront. You can ride it all the way from the mall, all the way down to the Freight House parking lot. You can just take it straight and come straight here. The downtown is really cool. There's all kinds of shops and boutiques. You guys, the Quilt Museum is so cool. People think Quilt Museum, it couldn't be that much fun, but it is so cool. If you're into art or you're into any type of like visual art, graphic design, I mean, it is just, you guys, it is the most amazing thing you have ever seen. And even if you're into just like, if you're not into those, but you're into like a business or you're into history, anything, the Quilt Museum is just super amazing.
Okay. I've got to check that out. It's on my list of things to do while I'm there.
Yeah.
This is something we always ask everybody. What was your first job?
What was my first job?
Yeah.
Okay, my first job where I actually got a W-2 or got was working at Fun Zone. So Fun Zone, I don't think they have them around anymore, but Fun Zone was like a place you went and they had all the tubes and the tunnels and and they hired me to like help do the birthday parties. So I was supposed to help do the birthday parties, dress up like the koala, but I never wanted to do that. I always ended up like hanging out in the back, decorating the cakes,
of course you did.
helping make the pizzas. I was always in the kitchen. I didn't want to do the job I was hired for. You don't always want to do exactly what they say you should. And I probably should have seen, so from very early on, I was still trying to hang out in the kitchen, even when I had something else, and I worked in restaurants all through college.
Sure.
So yeah, my first job, that's another interesting thing is if you are planning to go apply for a job, you guys, we have a lot of people that come in that apply for a job at Freight House and they've never filled out the paperwork before that they need to. They're different stuff. You could hop on the internet with your folks and print those off and practice filling those out, knowing if you're going to be, your parents could tell you more, but if you need to be a 0 deduction or a 1 deduction, those are important things to know. And when kids come in or anybody comes in and they're prepared and they know how to fill those out, I think, this person has some work experience. They know what's going on. They're prepared. So that's a good thing to have. A good skill to learn is just how to fill out your government documents before you go in for a job.
Yeah.
Because I know my first job, I had no clue how to do it.
Yeah, no. I think I took it home and asked my parents.
Yep.
I did. And then your favorite kitchen gadget.
Oh, let me see. I don't know that I have one up here. So my favorite kitchen gadget is called a cake tester.
Okay.
Let me go grab one. Hold on, I'll be right back.
All right, we'll be here.
Okay, so I couldn't find a cake tester, but I found this. So it's a paper clip.
Okay.
This is my favorite kitchen gadget. I take this paper clip and I unfold it like this. So now I just have a long, skinny paper clip. This is what I use to check the temperature of everything. So if I'm cooking a piece of steak, or if I'm cooking a piece of chicken, or if I'm cooking a vegetable, I'll like poke this into the vegetable to see if it's tender inside. If I'm cooking a piece of meat or something, I'll stick this inside the piece of meat, and this is a little piece of aluminum, and it heats up really fast, and then you can touch it to your hand or to your lip if you feel comfortable. We don't do our lip in the restaurant, but at home I use my lip. We touch it to our hand, and then you can tell what the temperature is inside. So this is my favorite. They're free.
Right.
You get them everywhere. My favorite kitchen gadget. This is something that a chef that I worked for in New York City taught me how to use this, how to cook with this. And now I don't feel like I can ever cook without one. I even have like a little pocket on my apron. It's almost always hanging out right there.
Cool pocket. That's awesome. Cool. Let's see. Looking at the chat here. What skills do you think are necessary to run a creatively based business?
I think to run a creatively based business, there's a few things you need to do. One is you need to be willing to pivot. So a restaurant is a creative business. And I think that most businesses are, and that's because you have to be creative with your problem solving skills. You have to be creative with your staffing skills. You know, people call out. How are you going to get everything done? Even in manufacturing, you need to become creative to figure out how to produce things the most efficient way. So I think that being able to pivot and not always be so stuck in your ways is the number one skill to running any successful business.
Yes.
I think you have to be willing to try different ways. This menu that I've showed you guys, when we opened, it didn't look anything like this. But over 6 years, we figured out, okay, this is what people want. This is what sells. This is the best way to lay out the menu. This is the best way for the servers to talk about the food. So you have to be willing to try different things. Your original vision, you can't always be so hardcore about it. You have to be willing to, do others and listen to others too. You want to surround yourself with people that want to be helpful, and you should listen to them.
That's a great advice. How about, let's see. You've traveled the world, obviously. You've had a lot of really cool experiences in your career. I was reading last night about some of your James Beard experiences. But what's one of your favorite things that you've gotten to do as a chef in all your travel?
So I think my favorite thing that I've gotten to do as a chef traveling is Paducah is what's known as a UNESCO city. So we're given a designation by the United Nations. We are a World Heritage Site for folk art. So for our pottery, for our quilts, for all kinds of different folk art that's created in Paducah, the United Nations has picked us. We were actually the first creative city in the whole United States. Now there are some other ones. We were the first one for folk art in the entire United States. I got to go to Mexico. So we went to San Cristobal de las Casas, which is just very close to the Guatemala border. And I got to do this really extravagant dinner. And I took a bluegrass band with me. I took some potters with me, a couple photographers. We went down there. We did a huge, I took my sous chef and another one of my friends that's a chef. And we went down there and we taught how to do traditional Western Kentucky style barbecue. So we taught classes on how to barbecue, and we were taught how they barbecue there. We learned how people barbecue in South Korea. So that was a really cool experience for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Way to represent Kentucky too.
Yeah. Chef was pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, that was kind of a cool experience.
Yeah.
I watched the whole season, by the way, so good job. What does it mean to you to be a Kentuckian?
You know, I think that what's really interesting about Kentucky, I think specifically for me, is that well, okay. Well, I'll say this first of all. I'm a UK fan. Sorry if there's any Cardinals fans out there, but I bleed
my
blue.
next question was catch your card, so that's great.
Yeah. So I'm a UK fan. So I think that one thing that always kind of defined being a Kentuckian for me was this like college rival thing. I know it sounds silly, but we don't have any professional sports here. So
Right.
you know, college sports were the next best thing, and I love sports. So, you know, being a Kentuckian was about, you know, this dream that I had to go to UK and go where my parents had gone and my grandparents had gone, my brother, my sister. So I think that was a lot about it being a Kentuckian. But the other thing about being a Kentuckian is that we're all so different, and we don't really like people have this very stereotypical view of what a Kentuckian is, and I have never met a person that is the stereotypical Kentuckian, because we're all so different and we're all so amazing. And so I don't want to let those stereotypes define me. So being a Kentuckian is being different and being myself, and not, you know, being like what everybody thinks Kentuckians are.
Great answer. Yeah. Very diverse state. I can attest to traveled Paducah all the way to Lexington and back and forth. So yeah, definitely diversity rules, and people don't know that about us. So
yeah.
Well, I think that is most of our questions. I don't see any other ones in the chat. Anything else any pieces of advice you'd like to leave with the kids today?
I think just remember that you don't have to decide what you're going to do with the rest of your life today or tomorrow. Remember that every day is the first day of the rest of your life. Every day when I wake up, it's the first day of the rest of my life. And I can decide how I want that day to play out. And if I wake up and I want it to be a positive, productive day, and I want to do good for my community, I want to do good for myself and my family, then that's the day I have. Not everybody wakes up like that every day. I don't wake up like that every day. Some days I wake up and I just want to lay on the couch and eat Cheetos. You know, I mean, it is how it is. But just remember that you don't have to decide right now what you want to do. But it is a good time to start thinking about it and trying to figure it out, because it'll get here faster than you know it. I mean, it just seems like a few days ago I graduated high school, and now I just had my 20-year class reunion. So,
oh gosh,
I know, right?
Comes at you fast, right? And then when you add kiddos in, that makes it go even.
So, all of a sudden, my daughter's almost 2 years old, so it's just bizarre.
Yeah. Now, does she play in the kitchen with you? You get her in there?
Oh yeah, she hangs out in the kitchen. She comes down. She walks around like she owns this place. She knows everybody's name and
right there.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure to meet you, and we just appreciate it so much that you've taken this time today with us.
Yes, thank you, Brittany, and thank you, Harper, and to everybody that's on the call. If you make it down here to Paducah and you come to the restaurant, make sure you introduce yourself to me. Make sure you remind, you know, because I can't see your faces, but make sure you tell me that you were on this Bus to Business call, and I'll take you back in the kitchen so you can actually kind of see it in person. You know, it's hard to see it just with somebody walking around with a camera, but yeah, I'm just so proud of each of you for taking, you know, an hour out of your day to devote to the rest of your life. So it's really
Absolutely.
impressive. You guys should be really proud.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Brittany. This was awesome. I'm definitely going to have to try that paper clip trick, but this is a great session. So thanks so much, and hope you all have a good rest of the day.
Bye, you guys.
Just a couple little quick housekeeping things. Like we said earlier, this will be on YouTube and Facebook for you all to share or rewatch later. And we have our next Workforce Center West of Business live session next Wednesday, April 7th at 10 a.m. Eastern, so 9 Central, with Catalent Pharma Solutions. So we hope you all will join us, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.